Hi brownies! I hope you're all having a fantastic day and I hope you guys are ready for my first Disney video of 2019. I am so excited. This is actually going to be a series I thought of a long time ago and I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm so excited to finally share with you guys. I'm going to do a Disney World versus Disneyland comparison series. This came to me really after my last trip to Disneyland. I was really surprised even as an adult like how much was different from Disney World. Just to give a brief background, as a child I was born in California, didn't live there long, moved back to Washington, but I went to Disneyland a lot as a kid, also went to Disney World twice when I was a kid, and then went to Disneyland more as a teenager and adult, like going to college, and then I went and worked for Disney World doing the Disney College program and also working as a full-time performer, and then after that I finally moved back to Washington and went to Disneyland again for the first time in like 5 or 6 years when I was there in September and also April this last year. So it's a lot of Disney trips, but one thing I was always surprised about going back and forth between the two different places is how different the two are as well. So this video is going to be an overall video talking about the size differences and just some general things, and then in the next couple of videos I'm going to be going into more specifics, talking about like the difference in the Fastpass system, the difference in the rides, the difference in the character meet and greets. I hope you guys are excited for this video and let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is the difference between Disney World and Disneyland. So for those of you who don't live in the United States, or maybe you don't really know much about Disney World and Disneyland, and you're kind of confused between the two, hopefully this will help make it easier for you. So Disneyland is just one single theme park, whereas Disney World actually encompasses 4 theme parks and 2 water parks. It's Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, which is very similar to Disneyland, and then also Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon are the water parks. It was really funny actually working for Disney World because you'd see a lot of guests that would be asking about Disney World or like ask where Disney World was or how to get to Disney World, and really they'd be referring to Magic Kingdom. That's because Magic Kingdom, out of all the theme parks, is very, very similar to Disneyland, and so they just kind of got confused and thought that like Disney, so they thought that like Disney World was the same thing as Disneyland, even though it's Magic Kingdom. So that was always kind of entertaining to see people ask where Disney World was when they were like in Disney World, but really they're referring to Magic Kingdom. That's one of the biggest differences between the two, is one is actually not one single theme park, but it's actually a group of theme parks, and that's Disney World. Like think about like the whole world has multiple countries in it, whereas Disneyland is just one theme park, like one country. The next biggest difference is the size. So Disney World is 43 square miles. That's roughly the size of San Francisco. That's huge. It's like its own city. And Disneyland in comparison is 500 acres. It's a pretty big difference, and I feel like that does impact the type of guests that you see at both parks. So Disney World, I feel like you find a lot of people there that are staying longer, they have longer trips, whereas Disneyland, it's a lot of locals too that just can go there whenever they like. And I feel like overall, it's a little bit easier to plan a longer trip going to Disney World because you have so much you can do and so much you can get done, whereas Disneyland, you can get pretty much everything done in 3 to 4 days. Another big difference, which I've already kind of talked about, is Disney World just has more. They have more hotels, they have more dining options, they have more rides, they have more character meet and greets. Because it's so much bigger, there's just a lot more to do, and there's a lot more that they can offer than Disneyland, because Disneyland unfortunately is limited in its size. When Disney World was built and when it was created and formed back in the 70s, they had a lot more space to work with, whereas Disneyland, because it was already pretty crowded in the area where they built it, they don't really have the option to expand like Disney World does. So Disney World is constantly expanding way more than Disneyland, even though Disneyland does have some pretty cool expansions coming up with Star Wars Land. Another thing that I find pretty crazy when thinking about how much more Disney World has, they actually, I think it's 3. Actually, no, it could be 4 now. I think they have 4 different princess dining options. They have way more just character dining in general, but I think they have 4 because I know that they have Akershus, which is, I can't say that right. It's in Norway in Epcot. They also have Cinderella's Dining, which is in the castle at Magic Kingdom. They also have the Bon Voyage breakfast, and then they just added a Snow White breakfast as well. So I think they have 4. There might be another one. Oh, they also have like a tea thing at the Grand Floridian, whereas in comparison, Disneyland actually doesn't have any. They had one at Ariel's Grotto, but they got rid of that once they redid everything California Adventure and created the whole like Pixar area, Pixar Pier. So they actually don't have any princess dining, whereas Disney World has like apparently like 5 or 6. I could probably think of even more if I sat here and thought about it. So they do have a lot more to offer, especially for the whole family, because they do have even the water parks too. Another big difference is the ease of access. This is in regards to transportation, walking around, how you get from park to park. So at Disney World, it's very common to use a method of transportation, whether it's the monorail, taking your own car, they have a bus system. Sometimes you can even take the water taxi too, but at Disneyland, it's so easy because there's only 2 parks and there's literally just like a street separating them. It's not even like a real street because there's no cars. It's very easy to walk back and forth between the 2 parks. This does affect whether or not you'll buy a park hopper versus a one-day ticket to one of the parks. I feel like at Disney World, it doesn't make much sense to buy a park hopper ticket unless you're going to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. I think they're the most nearest to each other out of all the parks, but at Disneyland it might make more sense because you can literally walk between the 2 parks and it's very easy to access both of them. So even though Disney World is a lot bigger isn't always better, especially if you have maybe loved ones that are with you on your trip and they can't really walk or travel everywhere very easily. It might be a better option to go to Disneyland because everything is much closer together. And the last thing I'm going to cover in today's video is talking about reservations. So this is a big thing I noticed as an adult when I went and worked at Disney World in Florida, and then also my recent trips to Disneyland in April and September. So when I was going to Disneyland in April, I thought, you know, because I'm so used to Disney World, that I have to make reservations months in advance. But I was really surprised I can make reservations for all these restaurants literally a day or 2 in advance. I think a lot of this has to do with their audience. So Disney World, because their main audience are guests from around the country and around the world, those guests do make reservations months in advance when they're planning. So if you're planning a trip to Disney World, you do have to plan months in advance. Otherwise, you probably won't get reservations to restaurants that you're hoping to get reservations to. Whereas at Disneyland, their main audience or their main type of guests are their annual pass holders who live nearby. It's much easier to make reservations, at least in my opinion, at Disneyland. Although I was able to get reservations for certain dining experiences at Disney World days before, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it just because it does seem like most people do have to make reservations like months in advance. And I will cover this in my Fastpass video, but I've noticed the same thing happens for Fastpasses too, whereas at Disney World, you have to make Fastpasses like, you can make them I think 3 months or a month in advance. It depends on your package. So like I think if you stay at a Disneyland or Disney World hotel, you can actually get fast passes like 3 months in advance, or maybe it's just a month. You can get them in pretty far in advance, whereas at Disneyland, you can only get fast passes the day of, like once you walk in the park. So that's a pretty big difference too when it comes to reservations. I feel like Disneyland, it's a little bit more immediate, where Disney World, it's definitely more long-term and you really do have to plan it out. So that's what I'm covering in this series. If there's anything you feel like I definitely should cover that I don't have on my list, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, I know you guys are total Disney experts, so if there's anything that I forgot, please let me know in the comments down below, especially because I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I'm sure there's so many things I totally forgot. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!